So I'd like to welcome Mark Collins here from KLM, Annika from Phillips Lighting, and Massimo from Sunrise. So we'll have a proper round of applause now, a bit of enthusiasm. Well done, well done. Now you'll notice, the observant people here will notice, we've actually changed the title of this panel. We did have repositioning Qual in the era of unstructured data. And that worried me a bit, because I thought with all the challenges this morning, if I suggested to you you were all going to have to be repositioned, that might be a bit threatening. So we've changed it to opportunities and challenges. The other thing the panelists have said to me is that they're quite tired, because they've all been speaking. And they don't really want to say much. So we're going to be here to answer your questions, which gives you the opportunity to say a lot more, which I know you're all going to relish. I'm going to start, actually, because when I was asked to do this, Jen said to me, how do you feel about moderating a panel discussion? So I said, yes, that's fine. And then I looked at this and I thought, big data. They didn't teach me what big data was when I was at school. So I'm just going to start by asking Mark if you'd like to help me here and give me a clue as to what all this is about.
So to me, it's completely useless to try to define big data. Big data is pretty much everything that can be measured, everything that's available for analysis. I mean, what is big data? Where does it stop to be being big data? Where does small data begins? For me, it's completely irrelevant. I don't care. Does anybody care about definition of big data? If you're working with data that is big or small, I mean, in the end, you're trying to answer questions and you're using any data or any information that you have at your disposal, whether it's big or small.
Okay, great. Well, I've now got that, I think. I'm just going to ask each of the panelists just to kick this off, just whilst you're thinking about your questions. And I have earmarked, by the way, a few people who I know are going to ask great questions. I'm just going to spot you and pick you out of the audience, which is going to be great fun. But I'd like to start just by asking, Ank, what's your perspective on this, and what do you see the opportunities for Qual and big data?
Yeah, I've given that a thought, and I thought it seems very contradictory, big data and qualitative, but actually it's not, because big data, it's in the word, it's data, and data needs to be analyzed, let's say. And who does the analysis? It's a qualitative research, because we need to structure it and understand the why behind it. And I think that's the problem, Sloan.
That's a nice word, the why behind it. Any thoughts from the floor on the importance of why? We're not going to say anything. You guys, you've got to give us some feedback here. We'll give one more go, and then we'll just throw it to them. Massimo.
Big data and qual. That looks like a contradiction. Remember, I'm a quant, so that's why I have a different perspective. However, I think you can find the needle's eye in there and be successful. Of course, maybe we should talk about social media versus transactional data. I don't see you replacing dunnhumby in calculating basket analysis on terabytes of transaction at Amazon or something like that. However, think about it. I see a way, but I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. So, some thoughts from the floor. This could be a very short session. Okay, thank you. 2 questions. You want to do it in stereo? Ladies first.
We were supposed to get a question.
Or a comment.
Oh, okay,
comment.
Thank you. No, I just think that it's like, you know, the story of the drunk who's looking under the lamppost and everybody's helping him, like, I lost my keys here, but okay, are you sure you lost it here? But no, but it's the only place where there's light, so I have to keep on looking here, you know? So to me, and you're gonna, I hope, see where this is getting at in a minute. Okay, big data is big, but it's so big, you have to know where you're looking. And I think you'll always need, whether it's qual people or quant people, just people who like to think, who like to dig, who like to think with the client to think, where are we going to look at in the big data? Which are the criteria that are important, and what are we going to do with this data? Because the problem with big data today is like everybody can do it. It's just the way you're going to do it. So I'm quite optimistic, and I see only room for more working together with the client, whether it's qual or quant.
Does it cause more confusion as to where to look? Or does it help with your enlightenment of where to look?
I don't know. I don't think it's more difficult, because now there's more that we can do. So it should be easier to find ideas like, oh, we could do this or we could do that. And it's just a matter of, okay, let's discuss to find out where we can start, a bit like the guys from Discussio. Let's not wait until we know what to do exactly with big data. Let's just dive in and try to see what we learn from it.
So maybe it gives you some headlines that you can then dig more deeply with Qual.
I hope.
Yeah? Peter? Sorry. On you go.
You know, I don't see myself and ourselves sitting, you know, just imagining sitting at my desk and having like these piles of data, and I'm the Qual researcher, surprised that I'm the one who's going to understand everything and put it together and make a story out of it. I don't see ourselves doing that, to be honest. Because I don't even see us to be keen to look at mountains of data. But I see us more as facilitators of bringing people together that were responsible for certain data sets and sucking out all the knowledge they have, the most important insights, and then putting it together, like in a workshop or whatever. I think that's more the role of a Qual researcher. And currently, when I look at my organization, it would mean like that I, from Firefly, sit together with my quant colleagues from Milner Brown, and then we go to Kantar, Word Panel, we go to TNS, concept testing guys, and blah, blah, and we all bring together our insights, our knowledge together, and then I'm the one, you know, the facilitator making a story out of it, but not alone in the dark with a bulb over my head and trying to understand all the stuff.
I disagree. From client perspective, one of the issues I used to have with agencies, several agencies, that I was the client and they were the agency, and there was no partnership several times. They just did what I asked them to do. I didn't feel, I was mentioning yesterday, they gave me what I want, they didn't give me what I need. And I need more to give me what I need. And sometimes I don't know what I need, but I think an agency sometimes can help me a lot if I give a briefing of this is the research I want to do, these are the profiles I want to have. It can be a really great point of difference of the agencies. Listen, this is what you need, we understand, we already did the homework for you, and we found by using, I think the big data, it can be numbers or profiles or anything, and provide me with already an advanced targeted search or targeted profiles based on what I want. I don't see it today, but I think there are so many data available outside. I don't need to do it myself, but you can give it to me as a maybe moderator in it or.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no disagreement here. That's what I think. Like, even when you come with a question, and before starting doing a research project, my role is, if I'm working in a big organization, like Kantar or whatever, can be Ipsos or whatever it is, it's my role to reach out to my colleagues that work in different departments, have their different specializations, to gather the data we already have, because there is already so much data. We don't know, you don't know. We have to kind of build up a knowledge development, like a knowledge system in our company that we share, you know, what we do, that we know who's doing what or who has the knowledge on certain topics, and then we come to you, you know, to help you with this data and compile it. And that's what I mean, that we have to stick our heads together. It's not only Qual, it's all these specialists that we already have taking all the data that is already there and telling you what is there and what needs to be, done on top of that. Yeah.
That's a great point. Now, I'd like to ask the question to the panel. 3 clients. Whose role is it in terms of analyzing big data? Is it you as clients who should be looking at this and then using that to refine the brief to the qual agency? What's your views?
Actually, I agree with Edwin. It's more challenging the needs to have and the nice to have. I think if you can distinguish what is really needed and also to be more the consultant as an agency, so to say, I think that's very much embraced from client side. Definitely, yeah. And whether I would want to be piled up with all the data, no, not really. So I definitely would love to outsource that because it's huge work. And but it's maybe if you do it in a structured way and know what to find, want to find, so to say, I think that's part of the briefing, yeah, to help you understand what's really needed. Because everything is available, I feel like a kid in a candy store, so to say, and knowing that I can't buy anything or eat anything, but yeah.
Yeah, I think as a qual research, it's very important to also be in contact with big data guys, so to speak, because they will visualize behavior, they will give you results, and the moment people are seeing behavior, seeing results, that's the moment that they're going to start asking the why question, and that's the moment you as a qual researcher come in and answer that question, and the actionable insights lie in the middle of both behavior, intention, what people think. You can only add value to the business. You can only give key insights when you're mixing up those insights, not just only qual or only big data.
2 key points here. The first one, there is a specific capability and profession called a data scientist. Okay, so these people are the ones who are able to crunch the big data. It's not something that anybody can do. Just forget about it. The second one, and going to your side, data scientists might not be trained in how to distill the insights, because this is not data science.
So there we have a bit of a conundrum. Who here has used, for example, social listening and social media forums to form an analysis that will then inform some qual research? Can you give me an example? Whoever said, I saw some hands go up, so can you tell me how you used it?
I use social media. We use it for a study on detecting motivation or possible early adopters. And, we kind of recruit a pool of respondents. You ask them to give access to all their social media networks, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever they have. They agree on this, and then you take a reference point. You take like 1 year, and you visualize all the posts that they're making, you're coding them, and you're making an analysis based on that. But you can also get this data from media companies that can deliver it to you. So you can do it in home, or you can have the data delivered, and you just have to code it. And again, this is a special thing, and you have different types of analysis reporting styles. You can report frequency, you can report style. So we've done it internally, but I think with this big data question that is regarding the client, because clients, I think, stand on a lot of information, and not all the time they are transparent in giving this information. So maybe agency would be willing to curate the data for insights or for relevant potentialities. But how often do you actually are transparent with all the data that you are having? It takes a lot of time for a researcher to even working with a data scientist who has this knowledge in having relevant outputs for this. So then you cannot be as agile as you should be. So it's kind of a partnership, right? So if we are to embrace that, knowing the limitation that you have to work with a specialist, the client should also be as transparent and give a lot. So saving the time for me to look all this data outside. So it's kind of a tricky one.
Okay, that's great. Abby, you're going to say something.
We've used social media listening in a couple of different financial services projects, and I
So do you feel you can reassure the audience that it's not going to replace core research?
I feel very confident that big data isn't replacing research.
Do you,
I think it's big data tells us a lot of what is going on. You know, it's your client data and customer data, but it's never going to explain motivations and attitudes and things like that.
okay.
Okay.
Seems like a hot potato that we are throwing from
Yeah.
one another, you know, quant, client, and who takes the responsibility on how to deal with it. To be in touch with it, it doesn't seem so at hand right now. You know?
So if I Googled big data agency consultancies, who would come up?
Plenty of people.
Plenty of people. Yeah?
It's the profession of the future. If you Google data analyst, data scientist actually, that's where all the universities, the biggest grants, the largest parts of the funds in academic research is going.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Oh, sorry.
On you go, Peter, sorry.
I've been holding the mic and they
I
want to
know.
pass it on
You
to
want
other
to sing
people.
again, don't you?
Yes, I always want to sing. What? I have a question for the panel. Because I'm an independent who works. My colleagues who I can interrogate are probably the dog, and so I don't have the Kantar WPP world around me. And I'm used to dealing with discrete data, which comes from the projects, obviously, that we work on. And I would like to ask the panel how they see the role of the smaller independent qualitative researcher in beginning to move towards this world of big data, because apart from doing the occasional Twitter search before I start a project, I haven't got the time or the resources to interrogate 50 people to come up with a view, first of all. So I wonder what the panel feels about the small agency in this world. Thank you.
Okay. Actual example, I'm not going to get into the details. I'm trying to replace an MROC with big data. Okay, so I just ended up collecting 1.9 million posts, which imagine, it's the biggest MROC ever, maybe. So are you able to moderate and manage a market research online community? This can be replaced by, the type of posts, the type of questions, the way you moderate and so on. This can actually be skipped, because out there's already 2.5, the limit, the sky's the limit, number of content that already is able to replace. Now, what can you do? My question is, okay, I'm going to give you the 1.9 million file, and then take it from there. Or I have another point of view, okay? Then the 1.9 million are screened out. Not everything is important. You do a topic analysis, which was the point I was trying to prove with this project, doing automatic machine learning, trying to find out what the topics are. Okay, classify the topics, and actually I'm there. Establish a ranking of topics, and then that's where the data scientist stops. So I have now something like a list of 30,000 topics, and I'm there. What's the next step? Is anybody qualitative able to help me in this real, actual project?
Okay, well, assume he's paying. Well, he's not like me. He's not from Scotland, so you're okay. So who can help?
Well, for the study that we've done, and there were also a lot of 3,000 mentions. I wasn't involved in it. Someone in my team. So so please take with doubt what I'm saying. I just know the general stuff because we're not working on all projects. But the idea is that, as you said, so the data is curated. You only select what is relevant. And then she managed to do kind of 150 mentions per, she told me, like 4 hours or something like that, because they were, going back. It was social media, small posts, small data actually per mention. And 150 mentions for 4 hours, it took kind of like 3 weeks to do this study on social networking, making correlations. So when you have the topics, the discussion begins the analysis, and this is making correlation, positive, negative, based on meaning. So I think it's possible in a certain time frame with a certain budget, and you know, even if it's a big company, I mean, the studies, you have a project manager and someone that is working. You don't have like 300 guys doing this for you. I don't know how you're doing studies. So even in our agency, so you have in a department someone that is specialized on this method, and this is how it's done. So I think there is potential here, actually, as well as there is still potential for focus group, because that's a kind of different type of knowledge. I mean, we're discussing now of the content that exists, but when you're probing, then you get all sorts of other insights, and it has.
That's great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put someone on the spot now. Blue, as the managing director of a very successful independent agency, how do you see the opportunities for Qual in relation to big data?
Thank you, Robin.
Do you want to think about that, and we'll take one from someone else?
Well, no, it's okay. Sort of almost exactly what Abby said a few moments ago, which is that you know, the big data is getting better and better at telling us about the what, but my colleague Martin talks about almost like a sort of suspension bridge, where you've got big data on one side, but it's being held up. You know, it's only useful if you can actually make it work for you and tell you about why certain things are happening. So, you know, for some, I don't know, the kind of break things quickly or whatever it is, the sort of, you know, new startup style things, you know, often they don't need to know why, and that's fine. It might be enough to have a correlation that whenever they do something, something else happens. Well, that's great, that's all they need to know. But there are many situations where you do actually need to know a bit about the why, a bit about the, you know, what is going on in people's heads. Why is it that when we do this, that happens? And, you know, the data by itself can't possibly explain it. So that's why, you know, and where qualitative research can come in to, you know, use all of its skills to uncover that kind of motivation or whatever it happens to be. So actually, you know, from my point of view, the two work really well in parallel. You know, they're connected to each other. It's not that big data is a threat to Qual, or certainly not vice versa. It's just that they're both valuable for different things. And in fact, as we get better and better at evaluating big data, there will be more and more potential, hopefully, for qualitative research to come in when needed to interpret the things that aren't clear just from the data.
Terrific. A question is, has any client in the room issued a brief to an agency that says, we'd like you to use sort of big data and social media analysis to identify some of the what, and then use Qual to understand the why? Have people produced integrated briefs to agencies?
Not yet.
Not yet, not yet. We started with social listening projects, which actually paid off for us pretty well, conducting this in the regions where we normally don't run research, and it's very difficult, or how I call it, different from our perspective, so to say. For instance, you all aware of bans that are regulating certain bulbs not to be sold anymore. This is actually a mind shift that we put on people, so to say. So they need to reorientate in the market that they are very well familiar with. So this is one of the questions that we had, and we can go and fly to Indonesia, or whatever country that is now next in line where such a ban will occur. But listening in on social media and what's the chatting about, what are the main concerns, etc., helped us to get already some understanding of the sentiment and the problems that they figured out being their own, so to say. The way they chatted about it, the words they used, etc., really already gave us a glimpse of what is happening there, and definitely is a very inspirational kickoff to go and find deeper understanding. So it scratches the surface, so to say, because we don't know how it actually is. It's the interpretation of the data that you see. And I think, yeah, we talked about data scientists, and last week I learned a new word, data artists. And I think even if you're a small company or a big company, etc., qualitative is human work, so to say. And I think it's also kind of artwork, isn't it? Because you don't. It's really difficult to tell what exactly happens in your head when you do analysis. And I think this is it's linked, closely linked, associated with how to interpret big data, from my perspective, then, to make it actionable, tangible, etc., and workable for us.
We were just wondering, you know, how much social media content you have on bulbs. I mean, probably it's about Phillips in general as a brand, right? What you are talking about. I don't know how much people talk about it, you know, via forums or reviews or so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm not always involved in all the projects that run. A lot of things happen in the countries, so I'm slightly aware of that. I do know that we monitor very closely our newest introduction, like connected lighting, like the UE products, for instance. The project I referred to is just on regular bulbs, because LED will be there, and conventional bulbs is trying to survive as long as possible, so to say. So that's where the question came from, the social listening project. Yeah, we do have lots of data, but especially on this. And there's a special team doing this, actually.
Question for the audience. When you get a brief from a client, how many of you then use the various sort of social media analysis tools to explore the context of the brief? Hands up, who does that as a matter of course in their business? Okay. And how do you do it? How do you do it? Share the knowledge, share the knowledge.
We use platforms for advanced text analytics. So we check either the brand perception or the overall category perception in order to understand what are the key opportunities for our potential client. And we include this information in our proposal.
Okay, and is that a very expensive platform to use? Is there a platform you use called, I forgot the name at the beginning, Pleth?
Our platform for social media analytics, where are different platforms which are available.
Okay. Do you think that's a good idea, qualitative researchers? Hands up if you think it's a good idea to do that. Hello? I can't see the hands. It's either up or down. Okay, now hands up those of you who don't think it's a good idea to do it. And now hands up who hasn't voted. Okay, so we think that's probably a good idea. Is that something you'd like to learn more about as a business? Yes? No? Okay. Comments from the panel? We're just about to wrap up.
Yeah, just one closing comment, coming back on what both Massimo and Hank said. I believe you said right. Data scientist is the profession of the future. You said something about mixing up art and science. I fully disagree that data scientist is the job of the future or the role of research in the future. I believe it's the whole brain researcher. That is the research of the future, a researcher that can both interpret quantitative data, big data, qual research, who can interpret all those different kinds of data sources, who has business sense, who's able to translate all the data into useful information for the business, therefore adding value to the business. And it's indeed a mixture of art and science. The role for a qual researcher, as long as it's still a qual researcher, is really to show the human face beyond the figures. One case that always sits with me is one of a Dutch bookstore chain. What they did was use big data to see, all right, what is the potential of all the shops that we have? What's the potential of the location? Looking at all the data that's available, all the social demographic variables, income and such, to see, all right, are our stores overperforming or underperforming based on the potential they have. On most stores who were in high potential locations were overperforming, and the other way around. There was one store which was really an outlier, so it was really underperforming and in a really high potential location. So, and at that point they said, all right, let's pay this store a visit. And they found this guy was really nice, the owner of the bookstore, but there was one thing that wasn't present in the data set, and that was that guy had a big fat black cat sitting next to his register, scaring off people. That's something that you don't get from quantitative analysis, and you really need to get the human face beyond the figures, see what is happening, go to the real world instead of just looking at a data set to get the useful insights.
And that's a really fantastic story to wrap this session up on, because I think it puts the whole thing into context. I can see this could be quite challenging, because 5 years ago, if you'd asked this audience, how do you feel about integrating quant and qual research, there would probably have been a revolution. And we're now taking it a stage further, saying now that yesterday everybody's saying, well, we've got to integrate quant and qual, we're now going to include big data. That's going to be a very exciting future for everyone in this room. On your behalf, I'd like to thank Mark and Massimo for being here this afternoon. We're now going to move on. So now you can also do the X Factor exit. And we can clap them as they go.